Hello everyone, so I'm here today to do two tags, and that is because Courtney from Courtney Fairy Tale tagged me, and she has this tendency to do tags in twos. So I thought I'll do the same. So the first one is the Booktuber Favorites tag, and that was created by a Bibliophiles journey. And the second tag is Reading Retrospective tag, and that was created by Pauline at Dancing Alone. So I'll link all of those channels below. But let's get on with the tag. The first tag, as I said, is the Booktuber Favorites. And the first one is a Booktuber you've watched the longest. And I think that has to be, I don't know if she exactly qualifies as a Booktuber, but that is Lena Norms. I think her channel now is called Lena Norms. When I started watching, it was just called Just Kiss My Frog, I think. But she talks about books in her channel a lot, but also she talks about other things like um, cultural things, politics, climate change. So yeah, I don't know if it's exactly booktuber, but I that's how I started watching booktube, so I count it. The second question is a booktuber you just started watching, and that is very apt for the second tag because someone that I have recently subscribed to is Pauline at Dancing Lawn. She has this very calm and very reflective way of talking that I quite enjoy. So, yeah, you should all check her out. The third question is a booktuber you became friends with, and I think this one is. There are a lot of people I talked through several channels with, but I think the one I have to say is my soulmate, Lorraine from Reading with Makar. We both live in the Netherlands, and I think we studied in the same university, and we didn't know each other before, and we haven't met in person because of lockdowns and stuff. But as soon as we can, we will, and that is something that I didn't think was going to happen to me. I just meet people in the internet and then meeting them on person. So yes, I'm very excited about that. And the other one I wanted to talk about as well is Jyotsna from Jyotsna's Bookscapades. Obviously, she's from India, so we are not going to meet anytime soon. Although I was supposed to go to India this Christmas and I didn't. But I might go next year, the year after, because we were going for a friend's wedding, and that wedding has been postponed but not cancelled. So whenever I go, I'm going to meet with her, I'm sure. But yeah, I also talk to her every now and then, and we have a lot of common interests, so it's always good to have that. The fourth question is a booktuber you get most of your book recommendations from. And I think that for this one I have to say Doris from all the books. I think we have very similar reading tastes. And every time she talks about a book on her channel, I immediately want to pick it up, especially the non-fiction. She has an amazing non-fiction taste. So yeah, I would say Doris. Number five is a booktuber you watch who reads a genre you don't. For this one, I have to say Emma from A Cup of Books because she reads everything, but especially she reads. She has been getting into romance this year, and I almost never read romance. So, yeah. The sixth question is a booktuber whose videos make you happy. And I think this one is another friend from Booktube that I have from before I started making videos, and that is Natalie from Natalie Mer. And she doesn't post super often now, but all her videos are also always so relaxing and so just so calming. And of course I love her because yeah, buddy read several things before I had a channel, and she has always been so welcoming to me. And I love her, and I love every time she posts a video. It always makes me happy. The seventh question is a booktuber you'd love to do a buddy read with. And for this one, there are several. But the one I'm going to say is Nicole from Nicole is Here to Learn, because I always think that reads so deeply every book she reads that I'm sure we would have the most interesting conversations. Yeah, she always has such a deep dive in every book she reads. Number 8 is a booktuber with under 1,000 subscribers that you love. Um, and for this one, I'm going to name one that I haven't named yet, because of course there's a lot of them that I have already named, and you should check all of them. But the one that I haven't mentioned that has less than 1,000 subscribers is Rainier from Rainier Books. We have done a couple of buddy reads, and I enjoyed buddy reading with him, and also I like how most of the time on his videos it's not only about the books, it's also about um, what is going on in the world, what is going on in his life. He shows around beautiful Stockholm sometimes, and I would recommend that one. And for the ninth question is a booktuber with over 1,000 subscribers that you love. And for this one, again, I was saving this one for this. Is Kieran from Katie Books. He's also, I would consider, one of my booktube friends. We sometimes talk, and he's the nicest human being. And he's so passionate about books. It's really inspiring to see. So yeah, if I mean, of course you will all know who Kieran is because I mention him in every video, but if you haven't, check him out, you should. The 10th question is who do you tag? And I'm just going to be lazy and say all of the people that I have mentioned in all of the questions before, and also for the next tag, which is the reading retrospective tag. And for this tag, I think all the questions, it says this year, but I think they refer to 2020 because it's retrospective and we have less than a month from 2021. So I'm going to answer all of these questions with books from 2020. The first question is which book you read this year would you recommend to anyone and why? I'm going to say The Art of Losing by Alice Senator. I read this as a proof copy in NetGalley and it's actually coming out in March 2021. And I think that I would recommend it to everybody because it's a very thoughtful book about migration, and I think everyone could do with a little bit more knowledge about migration and the stories of migrants and how difficult it is to integrate. Because often I think people assume that you just move to a country and you just have to do what the other people do and that's it. But it's a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot of feelings and a lot of history that comes into it. And I think that this book really portrays that really well, and I think that we could do with more people understanding that. The second question is which book you read this year has taught you something new? And for that one, I'm going to say Who They Was by Gabriel Krause. This is a book about gang culture in London, and I kind of knew there was some like sort of gang culture in London, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how deep it was. I didn't know how the differences between the rich and the poor people in London, how deep they were. And this book taught me a lot about that. And also it's beautifully written. So yeah. The third question is which book you read this year came just at the right time when you needed it? And I think for this one, I'm going to take another one of my favorites, and I'm going to say the Devabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, because these are very interesting fantasy books about this world based on North African mythology, but they are fantasy, so they are also action packed and they are a little bit lighter than the average book I read. And this year or this past year, we did need something lighter that I normally don't read light books. So it was interesting to get something that was light enough but still had enough meat into it that made it very interesting. And the fourth question is which book you read this year will stay with you for a long time? And for this one, I decided to go with The Eighth Life by Nino Haralishvili. I finished this in December, so I cannot say yet if it's gonna stay with me or not. But I think that this is one of those stories because it's so long and you are so deep into the family's history that it will stay with you. I think I will remember what this book is about and what happens in the book for a long, long time. And also all the discussions about the the Russian occupation of Georgia and other countries of the Soviet Union. I think I'm going to remember that also because it's probably the first book that I have read that deep dives into that topic. So it's always interesting to learn something new. The fifth question is which book you read this year expanded your reading horizon, either in a new genre, author, theme, style, or format. And for this one, I'm going to say Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. This book has a very interesting format. It's written a bit like a script of a TV show, and I have never read anything like that before. And I think it really worked for this book because it was trying to show the um, how Asian people are treated in the Hollywood industry. So I think it makes perfect sense to write it that way. And yeah, I found that the format really interesting. So yeah, it definitely opened my eyes to new formats because I think I like to consider myself pretty open in terms of themes, but this one is definitely a different format. Um, the sixth question is which bookish things did you particularly enjoy doing, purchasing, or using this year? And I am not very into the buying thing, but what I have started this past year that I have been loving is this channel, YouTube. I have started my Booktube channel, which is something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time. And even if I have tried before, I never stuck because I never found the way that I felt comfortable doing this. And I feel like I finally have a format that works for me. So I'm very happy that I was able to do that in 2020. And despite all the crappy things that have happened in 2020, at least it has given us time to sit down and think about what we actually want to do with our lives for a lot of people because a lot of us have been stuck at home. And that was also the case for me, and that's why I was able to start this channel. So I'm very grateful for being able to do that. The seventh question is who are some Booktuber subscribers or other bookish friends that you got to know better this year through watching, comments, personal contact online or in real life or otherwise? So as I have said in the previous tag, Loren is someone that I consider a good friend now. Jyotsna is also someone that I talk on a regular basis to. Kieran as well. Sometimes he will send me voice messages in Voxer like, I'm reading this book and this doesn't make sense. Please help me. And I love these messages. But also I wanted to mention two commenters that have been lovely and they have commented in almost all of my videos, which is always so heartwarming. And those are Joe Smith and Hester Dunlop. They are so thoughtful and so yeah, so friendly, and I love them as well. So yeah, and they don't have channels, but they are lovely people regardless. The eighth question is what book to video did you particularly enjoy this year? And for that one, I'm going to mention another of my favorite booktubers that I haven't mentioned yet, and that is Camille from Camille Reads. He did a review of This More Noble Body, or the trilogy of the Nervous Condition trilogy. And he's always extremely thoughtful on his reviews, but I think this one in particular because I also love the book and I have similar ideas to what he explained. I really really love this review. I will link it down below as well because I think it's worth a watch. And I also like the fact that a lot of people read This Mournable Body, and at the beginning of the year especially, and did not like it as much. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they only read This Mournable Body. And I talked to some of them, and they said, there's no character development. I don't understand the character, and of course that is gonna feel that way if you don't read the other two, which is where you see how the main character develops. And I think that Camille did a great job at looking at how that worked and the connections with that, and the history of Zimbabwe that is trying to be portrayed in the book. So yeah, I will link to that video below. And the ninth question is, did you discover a new all-time favorite book? And this one is a hard one to say, because I think for me to know if it's going to be a favorite of all time, it needs some time. But there is definitely a few candidates of books that might become favorites of all time. To mention three, I think Who They Was might be a favorite of all time. Upon reread, we will know, because I think that's also another thing that I need to reread them to see if they actually are. But Who They Was, Disoriental by Negar Jabadi, I think can also be a contender to be a favorite of all time. And The Eighth Life by Nino Hardishvili are potential favorites of all time. But that list is very difficult to get into. So we will see with time if that's the case or not. And yeah, the last question is to tag some favorite bookish people, and as I said, all the people I talked about in the first tag are also tagged here. So yeah, those are all my answers to those questions. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have some interesting answers, if you have read or watched the things that I have talked about. And until next video, bye!